Who the hell are you? Tam's heart was pounding so hard, his chest physically ached from it. He was certain he'd managed to get Danny out of the room before Delgado noticed him, which meant that as far as Delgado knew, Tam was the only intruder. He pushed the door closed behind himself decisively, hoping he looked as if he'd just stepped into the room instead of being in the middle of escaping. If Delgado had just woken up to see him standing there, he couldn't know which direction he'd been headed in. "Hello?" Tam put a calculated note of nonchalance in his voice and leaned back against the closed door with a deliberate cock of his hip. "The master of the house thought you might appreciate a bit of additional entertainment tonight, since you've exhausted your previous companion already." Kai's eyes glittered from the bed, but he didn't object, knowing full well that Tam was lying through his teeth to cover his ass. Kais was a good guy, affable and easygoing. After this was over, they'd all have a good laugh over it. Hopefully. Delgado sat up slowly, the sheet pooling around his hips. "Is that so?" His right hand was hidden from sight underneath his pillow, making Tam wonder if he was in the habit of sleeping with a weapon of some kind there. Tam pushed off of the door and moved forward slowly. "Special guests get special treatment," he said, as if that were a common practice inside the house. You could never go wrong, he thought, with a carefully applied bit of flattery. One thing all cabal higher-ups had, in his experience, was an overinflated ego. Delgado regarded him consideringly. "What makes you think I'd be interested?" The corner of Tam's mouth curled upward. "Pardon me, then. I didn't expect you'd be as exhausted as your companion." Kais looked stricken. "Sir," he said, obviously intending to apologize profusely on Tam's behalf. "You can go," Delgado said firmly, cutting him off. He didn't look away from Tam's eyes. Kais's throat worked for a moment, but then he scrambled out of bed. Giving Tam a dark look, he snatched up his clothes and started pulling them hastily on. Tam stood unmoving in the middle of the room while the other boy dressed. Delgado never looked away from him. "I hope you know what you're doing," Kais whispered, as he brushed past Tam on his way to the door. "Me too,"